Hello, class. Here we are, back at it with the white vans in this online context here, right, as you are used to at this point. Except now, this is MMDD 255, Emerging Multimedia Practice 2, and this is now the summer 2025 semester. Some people may say spring 2025, but for me, summer makes more sense. So I'll be referring to this as the summer 2025 semester. Before I really get into anything here, I'm just going to say how important it is that you watch this video. And if you're watching this, make sure you tell your classmates, hey, make sure you watch this video that the professor provided, because I'm doing things a little bit differently for this term, and I'll be talking about that quite a bit throughout this video. Again, not super differently, but basically what I'm planning to do in terms of these videos is kind of have this one grand overall guide video that goes through kind of the whole semester all at once. Because at this point you should be quite used to the course format as well as what is expected of you and each stage of the project process. So I will be going over that in this video, but maybe not quite as in detail as those individual videos from the previous semester. The reason for this is that things are quite condensed this time around. I'll be talking a lot about that as well, and I think it's most important if you just spend the majority of your time working on your projects as well as, corresponding with me with any questions and things like that. So this video is very, very, very important, and after watching it, you should have a good grasp on all the expectations throughout this semester as well as how to get started and get moving through it. At any point in this video, as I'm covering information, if anything is unclear or confusing, please reach out to me via Blackboard messages and I will be happy to clarify it for you. That is so much better than, being confused by something and then moving forward with your project and potentially, going on the wrong track with what you're working on and even wasting time because of that. So that's why very important, if you need any clarification on anything, to simply ask me. As I'm sure most of you, if you've reached out to me before, I tend to respond quite quickly, I think, and I will answer whatever questions you may have. I actually kind of recommend during this video as you watch it to maybe take notes, just so that you can make sure in your own terms you understand everything that's expected this semester, and you can refer back to those notes as well in the future to just kind of remind yourself of what's going on, because as the semester goes on you might forget some things, so it's good to be able to refer back to that as well as refer back to this video as well, which will cover all of this important stuff. And I will make sure to put the sort of timestamps in the video so that in the YouTube description you can select certain areas if there is a particular part of the video you want to refer back to or find clarification on or anything like that. So I think with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump in here into Blackboard. Whoops, wrong button. Here we go. Here we are, Blackboard course for Emerging Multimedia Practice 2 for the summer 2025 semester. It should look quite familiar to you, right? The course and project overview area, and then there are areas for each stage of the project with the associated weeks you will be working on it. Within each stage there is an overview document and a submission document, as well as any other important resources that will help you at that stage of the project. One of the main things that is different about this course, as you'll see here already detailed, is that it only lasts 7 weeks rather than 14. And I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. And you can also access your remote team here. So pretty streamlined. Again, this should be very familiar to you at this point. But if you do have any questions about it, please reach out. Now, what I'm going to be talking about at the start of this video is the course and project overview. And then I'll go through a bit more on Blackboard as well, just to make sure everything is covered. This document is, of course, really important to determine and understand what is happening this semester, changes from last semester and all of that. I may not read everything in perfect detail here just because it is a lot of information, but it's here for you to refer to. And it is, in some ways there's repetitive information from last semester as well. So I might go through these slides a little bit more quickly than, going line by line. But once again, if anything is unclear or not covered here, please just ask me. Let's see if I can actually present this, if this is still captured in the thing. Yes, I think so. So course and project overview, intro. So here are the main differences from MMDD 232, especially those of you who took it in the winter 2025 semester. First off, major change is that the course and project lasts 7 weeks rather than 14 weeks. This is about specifics with the summer term, as well as when I am hired to work, basically, and so it makes sense for the course to be condensed. Even if it weren't the summer, in the winter, it's condensed to 9 weeks already, so it's just a couple more weeks cut off there. So this is going to move quite a bit more quickly than last semester because it's basically half as much time. But given that the fourth semester is a much lighter load, I believe, than the third semester in the MMDD program, it should be given, you should have a lot more time as well to work on this project. But, keep in mind that, yes, 7 weeks, you maybe won't be able to do quite as much work, but it is still expected that minimum project work time should be around 4 to 6 hours per week, rather than 3 hours from the past semester. So 4 to 6 hours per week I think is a very manageable amount given your schedule this semester, like I mentioned, and that will also help to make sure you're moving at a good rate with this project. Here's another change, is that supervisor meetings will not be required during this semester, but optional by request or assigned based on circumstances. So I might, in the feedback for your submissions, say, you know what, it would be good if we talked a bit about this, so please book a meeting here. Other than that, if you find that it would be helpful to book a meeting with me, 100% just reach out to me via Blackboard Messenger, and I will be happy to meet with you. The reason for this change this time around is because typically this course is given a particular time slot in your schedule, but for the summer it didn't end up being the case. So usually that time slot is basically an agreement between me and the students of here's a time that we all have ideally set aside in our schedules to meet and work on this course. But because there isn't one of those times in your schedule, nor mine, and my schedule is kind of all over the place during this point in time, it's a bit harder to align all of that, and it's hard for me to know when to expect students' availability. Right, so I can't quite mandate that quite as strongly. So because of that, the supervisor meetings won't be required where, hey, here's 3 hours, we're going to be meeting with people back to back. Instead, it's a bit more ad hoc in that you reach out to me or I reach out to you saying to book a meeting, because I know that they are very helpful, I think, for both sides, just to make sure everything is moving along well. Now, there will be supplemental drop-in sessions throughout the semester, so you can definitely drop into those. Those are optional, but they are there as a resource for you to come in, and we can talk about what part of the project you're at, how things are moving along, and make sure things move along well after that. So there is still the resource of me being available in the drop-in sessions, and most definitely via reaching out to me to book one-on-one meetings. So that's an important shift this time around, and it'll be interesting just to see from students' perspectives how that works out compared to the required meetings, because I did get some feedback from students last semester that having meetings on a by request basis might actually be helpful, because I also, that also means that you can book it with me at different times in the semester than maybe when those previous meetings were assigned. Granted, you always could do that, but now it should be a bit clearer to you that that's a possibility. So I think that covers that part of it. And due to the condensed nature of this course, you can only use one late waiver this time around rather than two. As you'll see, there's really only 4 major project submissions this term, one for each stage of the project. And in the final stage, just like last semester, there are no late submissions. So basically that just gives you 3 submissions where you could use a late waiver in the first place. So if you were to use 2 late submissions, that's 2 out of 3 that were late. So that's not a good vibe. For lack of a better terminology there. So 1 late waiver this semester, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, hopefully you didn't rely on these late waivers too much last semester. That's not the point of them. They are there for just, very particular circumstances when you aren't able to meet a deadline. Purpose of this course, just to sort of restate them, is to develop skills as a remote worker, develop skills in adapting to new and emerging technologies, right, with the self-directed learning path. Specialize your MMDD pathway, right? Sort of get yourself on a track towards what you want to do after this program. Help you on a path towards success in your work placement and after school. And believe it or not, this course will also help you find the you knew was in you. That's the grand new Humber slogan. A bit controversial, I think, depending on who you talk to, but the general idea behind this statement here is that Humber should allow you to find something within yourself that you can bring to the world and something that is unique to you. So I do think that this class works very well for that, because you are, ideally pulling something out from within yourself and putting it into these projects to show who is inside of you, right? And who you can become in your life and in your career. So I think that this actually works really well with this course. And so, keep that in the back of your mind, that this course will help you discover the you knew was in you. I also wanted to talk about some success stories with projects in the class. I've actually had a good amount of students sort of reach out to me and come up to me and tell me about how their projects in MMDD 232 and 255 actually directly helped them secure a work placement or a job, right? They were projects on their portfolio that helped them get interviews, and then they talked about their projects in the interview to discuss sort of their expertise and approach to project development. Many of these opportunities for students were also remote and hybrid, which this course also helped train them for, to be able to keep up well with schedules, to track their time, and to just have more self-discipline in their work and project development. So the success stories have landed opportunities at companies like the following. There's a student who landed a UI UX design position at Roots, and they did a UI UX project in these courses that they showed and demonstrated their expertise with. There's a student who is doing a media and communications role at Interac, and she had a project demonstrating social media planning and execution in these courses, and that helped her convey to her potential employers that she was organized and had a strong media and communications focus behind her work. There's a student who now does motion graphics for TD, right, in their project in these courses. They made motion graphics campaigns for a particular brand, and then they said, hey, TD, I could do the same thing for you, basically, right? Now they're working there. And there's a student who did a sort of UI UX research project, actually, but they landed a position at Deloitte, which is a huge company, doing creative planning, and they eventually actually led to a more leadership role. Their project that they demonstrated and showed really demonstrated their organization skills, their research skills, the thoroughness with which they approach project development. And so that helped them secure that sort of basically management position. These are all big companies, right? These are all great opportunities for graduates from this program. So, these students also put a lot of effort into these projects, right? So they, got out of the project what they put into it. So because they were so dedicated to developing these projects, because they had a focus with what they wanted to do with them, that directly paid off in that it helped them secure these positions and really helps them have a great start to their career, because on their resume they can, if they want to move on somewhere else, they can list working at very known and widespread companies like this. So keep that in mind, right? And keep in mind using these projects to help direct you in the sort of industry that you would like to be in, right? So keep that in mind, right? I think it's really cool to know that these courses have helped students so successfully do this, because that's also a main big point of these courses. The course approach, you'll, just like last semester, you will propose and complete a self-directed multimedia project throughout the semester. This course is online, as you know, and primarily asynchronous. You can consider your project work time counting as course time. One-on-one supervisor meetings are available by request via Blackboard messages. We'll work out a time based on sort of discussing. There will be optional online drop-in sessions for students to come by with any inquiries. And you will also, just like before, be tasked to meet with peers for remote team meetings at various points in the semester. I also, just to make it easy, hopefully it works out that I did this. I basically tried to use the same remote teams you were in last semester. Hopefully you develop pretty good relationships with those students. You're already in communication with them. So you'll be meeting with them again this semester. If you find that it would be better to meet with other students, let me know, because that gives me insight into the course. But I thought that maybe just for ease of already being connected with those students, it would help this time around as well. There are a couple students in this semester who are coming from different semesters and stuff like that. So they're being added into groups. So you might find that there's a student or two that was not in your group last semester, but make sure to welcome them in and connect with them as well to provide feedback on their work. Asynchronous, just to make sure I cover this, course information will be delivered by announcements on Blackboard, documents, and course videos like this. Stay up to date with announcements, information on Blackboard, and any provided videos. It's essential for your success in this course. The announcements, especially at this point in time as well, it's just every week I detail what you should be working on and doing. That's really the best way to make sure you're on track with things. Of course, watching this video and also reviewing information on Blackboard, but the week-to-week things, really make sure you read those announcements. And, saying I don't get notifications for them isn't really an excuse. They're posted every week. You can access the Blackboard page to see them. So you shouldn't have to receive notifications to know that. Keep that in mind. And, students, they come by later on and they say, oh, I didn't realize that was going on. Explicitly was said in course announcements multiple times, multiple weeks. So again, not an excuse to not see these announcements and not understand what's happening week to week in the course. Since the class is mostly asynchronous, it requires more discipline and organization on your end to complete, as you know from last semester as well. Remote team meetings, just like last time, like I said, I have you in these teams. You'll be meeting very similar to last time as well. I don't think I have to go through this too much. The project brief, just like last time around, you'll propose and create a portfolio project that demonstrates and builds upon the skills you've learned in this program. I do find the students that really synthesize a lot of different disciplines tend to have very successful projects, especially when it comes time for their case study, when they integrate motion design into the case study. I think that really is a big wow factor for their work, and I encourage you to think about that later on in the course, to think about how you can integrate that into your case study. This project will be featured in your portfolio, of course, to help you launch your desired career path, just like those student success stories that I mentioned. And you're encouraged to explore new and emerging technologies and tools with this project to keep you up to date with your chosen industry, and also to show potential employers that you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to stay up to date in your industry. It's very important for them to see, to understand the initiative and the expertise that you have and that you will bring to their organization or team or whatever it is. Your project must explore technology, software, or skill beyond previous course projects. It must be relevant to your personal interests as well as your career direction, right? So why are you actually personally interested and motivated by what you plan to create in this course? The subject matter, does it align with a passion you have, something that you do in your free time, something that you're interested in? And it must be developed in a self-directed manner as well, as you know. That your project may not double dip with another course project. I think you're working on your portfolio website right now in another course, so you can't say, oh, I'll just do my portfolio website in this class too. That's like self-plagiarism. That's trying to get 2 course credits for 1 project. That's not good. That's not acceptable. And, it happens, unfortunately, where students do this. And once again, they seem confused that they couldn't do it. But once again, it's being communicated to you right now. And it's in this document, which you are expected to understand and have gone through. So once again, there's no excuse for that. And it cannot be a reproduction of a previous course project as well. It should be something new. Now, this project can be an extension of what you worked on in MMDD 232 to create a more significant overall project. So say you were working, on a motion graphics campaign, and then you want to extend and create a few more videos and integrate, AR or 3D or something into them or into the campaign. You can consider doing that, right? So, or you want to flesh out something further that you were working on, just as long as you're able to propose that it is, of a similar level of scope as what you did last semester, and it will, build upon your project in a way that will help you with all of these things listed here. You can consider that. Project stages, as you know at this point: propose and plan, stage 1, pre-production, stage 2, stage 3, production, stage 4, finalize and deliver. Detailed here, right? In stage one, there's templates for a proposal and for your plan that you will develop and the plan you will use throughout the semester. You'll check it off, resubmit it just like last time around. It has been a while since you worked on your proposal though, so remember the template is there with all the required information for you to include. Pre-production, right? Mood boards, sketches, storyboards, scripts, surveys, research, lo-fi prototypes. Given you've been through this process before, you should be able to propose and plan a project more within the scope and ambition that you would be able to complete, especially within 7 weeks. You should have learned from your project last time around. Did you overshoot what you could do? Did you undershoot what you could do? Try to keep things more aligned this time around, just to make sure everything is set on a good path and you won't end up having to, reduce things in the project or anything like that. And you should also have learned from that experience, what work that you did also, fit best into what particular stages. So you should have a better sense now of what was most important that you did in the pre-production stage that you want to make sure you focus on. Once you get to the production stage, ensuring that you have enough things planned out and sort of drafted and sketched and all of that. Again, these stages should be clearer to you now considering you've already done them. Then finalize and deliver. This is when you do any final tweaks and you put your grand case study together. Once again, you've done the case study before. You should be more familiar with Behance, so you should be better off this time putting it all together. That's a review of the project stages. Your critical path is on Blackboard. I'll cover that in a little bit. Submission info, just like last time, there's bullet points of what is requested for each submission. Ideally include a message with the submission, and if you would like any specific feedback, ask for that specific feedback. And please don't say, if you have any feedback, let me know. What you should say is, could you please provide feedback for me on my sketches, on my storyboard, on my draft video, right? Specify what sort of feedback you're looking for, because that's also something that you will want to be able to do in your career when you send along work to someone. Is like, could you give me feedback on this particular thing? Not just, hey, if you have any feedback, tell me, right? Because that opens things up really wide, and that makes it also less directed on the person providing the feedback, what would be most helpful for you, right? So it makes sense to detail more feedback on the particular part of the project that you think should receive it, rather than just hoping that they just tell you feedback on everything and then also, making their feedback less focused as well. So just trying to provide that context for you. So, templates are provided, things are listed there. Include all of them in your submission to receive full credit for the submission. You'll create a project plan in stage one, just like you did last time. You'll check off tasks and resubmit it with each stage. The timesheet you also will be filling out this time around. You're more than welcome to use the timesheet you designed in the last semester. You've already done it. You already have a little logo in there and stuff like that. So feel free to use it again rather than designing a whole new timesheet. But also you'll submit that updated with each stage of the project. Evaluation, once again, SAT, UNSAT. You hopefully should have understood the approach to this last time around, so I don't have to spell it out to you once again. But if you have any questions about this, if you say, hey, if I do this, will that receive an UNSAT or something along those lines, I'm happy to clarify that for you. And, students would have learned as well, if you submit something and it's incomplete or it needs to be tweaked in some way, you'll receive an UNSAT with the things you need to change and with a new date for you to resubmit it. And as I'm marking your submissions, I tend to try and give all of the evaluations at the same time. Unless it's an UNSAT, I give those evaluations to students first so that they have more time to sort of resubmit their work. So keep an eye out. If you receive an UNSAT, read the feedback and resubmit the work with the changes that are requested. Listed here, what to do to receive a SAT, what to do to receive an UNSAT. So to receive a SAT, it's pretty straightforward. Submit your work on time in the right format with all the requested deliverables. Maintain, hours demonstrated on the work that you complete. And, I'm sure you think you can students have tried to get away with, okay, I spent, 3 hours doing this particular task, and then they show the work and it obviously is not 3 hours of work. So please be honest with what you did. Students have also said, oh, I spent 2 hours meeting with the professor, and then they didn't even make that supervisor meeting with me, right? So like obvious things like that, like come on, okay? So be honest with what you're working on and the time you spent on it with these timesheets. If we have any meetings, please make sure you're on time and prepared, and also be cordial and professional with your remote team meetings. In unsat, right? If you are asked to change and resubmit a submission and you don't do it in time, then that could keep an unsat on the submission because you didn't resubmit it with the requested changes. More than one late submission, right? So once again, you have one late waiver this semester. If you have more than one late submission, you'll receive an unsat in the course. So keep that in mind. If you receive an unsat on any submissions, that means that you don't receive credit for the course as a whole. So you need to receive a SAT on everything. You can't just skip a stage and then plan to submit it all at a further stage. It's not like a class where you can just get a 50 and get credit. You have to receive a SAT on everything you do. If you don't keep up with the course submissions, if you have low hours of demonstrated work on your timesheet, if you miss any meetings without any communication, and if you miss any remote team meetings. And if there are any meetings that we have scheduled and you can't make it, reach out to me ahead of time. That's always very important, and I keep telling students to do that. Your permitted one late waiver, there it is. Hopefully you won't have to use one, but like I said, sometimes circumstances require it, and you cannot use one on the stage 4 final submission in the course. Keep that in mind. There's no makeup work in this class, so be proactive. Do not expect to be able to receive makeup work to address any previous issues like an unsat submission. You can't miss a submission and then weeks later say, oh, can you just give me a new assignment for me to complete so that I can pass this class? It's not how it works. So just please don't even ask. If you are facing any issues with project development, reach out to me ahead of time, not afterwards. This is all about professional behavior. I'm trying to instill in you right now that this is how you approach situations like this. Because guess what? They're going to come up in your life, in your career, balancing things, schoolwork with your life and your job right now. I know it's very difficult, but you're going to still have to do that once you're in your career. It isn't that everything suddenly is going to work and be perfect. You're going to still have to balance your work with your life, with your relationships, with paying rent, with all of those things that you have to deal with. So now is the opportunity to figure out how you balance all of that, because you're going to have to be doing that the rest of your life. So the best thing you can do is be proactive about communicating with someone if they're expecting work from you to say, look, something's happening right now, so this may be a bit delayed. What can we do to make sure that things are still going to be okay between us? Okay, that's professional, not sending something that someone is expecting from you, and then a week later saying, "Oh, by the way, yeah, sorry." That's not good. So example 1, I'll be traveling out of the country to help my sick grandfather, so I may have limited internet access. Please let me know any recommendations to ensure I can still maintain satisfactory progress in the course. I would be more than happy to work that out with you. Okay, so that's a great way to approach a situation like this. And please don't make up that you have a sick grandfather. Example 2, sorry I missed the last submission and didn't see this week's announcement. I was out of the country helping my grandfather who is sick and do not have internet access. Is there anything I can do to make this up? It's not how it works. Once again, there's expectations set for you in this class with this project, as there will be in your career. I'm trying to help you develop professional habits here. This is key to that. Okay, so don't come to me after the fact with all the excuses to why something didn't happen. Come to me ahead of time and let me know so that something can be worked out. AI policy, this is, a lot of text here. Please review it and read it. But basically, it's as simple as if you use AI, state that you used it and how. Okay. Examples, I use ChatGPT to help with the ideation. I use Midjourney to develop these image assets. Okay. Just be honest about it. Otherwise, once again, it's plagiarism basically, and you are trying to take credit for work that you didn't necessarily do, that you relied on AI for. So being transparent about this is also very important in your career and as you move on, because you don't want to be hired based on skills that AI did for your project, and then suddenly you're in a position where you can't actually do those things you were hired for, and it's a bad situation to be in, right? Whereas if someone understands, okay, they used AI for this, then maybe they could actually apply that AI expertise to our work, right? So keep that stuff in mind. Professor contact, that's me. Preferred contact, Blackboard messages. There's my email, though, if you need to email me or prefer that. Try to respond within 48 hours. No response on the weekend. I respond during business hours. Like I said, I think anyone who reached out to me last semester hopefully got pretty quick responses. If you send me a message and I don't respond within 48 hours, just send a follow-up message and say, hey, just making sure you saw this. It's also a professional thing to do. Please don't contact me via social media, so no DMs. Tips for success. Read weekly announcements, as I said before, thoroughly at the start of each week, as they will detail key information about work for the week. You should be expecting those announcements to come out. You should be reviewing them, seeing what you should be working on. Review Blackboard for clarification about aspects of the course and project. And if your question isn't addressed there, reach out to your professor via Blackboard Messenger. Here I am. Organize your work time each week to maintain development on your project and not fall off track. Very important. And propose a project that you will enjoy working on. Oh, that's so important. This course is meant to be a creative exploration for you to find the you knew was in you. You. So take advantage of that, please, right? Don't just say, okay, here's a project. Oh, it's kind of boring. Oh, I don't really care about it. This is the opportunity to actually think about what's something that you would like to work on. And like I said, you have previous experience now of proposing and working on a project like this, so you should have a better sense of what it is you might like to do. Awesome. Okay, so that's that grand document, which, like I said, is there for you to review as well. Now I'll open up the critical path just so you can see how this semester is going to work spread across 7 weeks. Here we are, right? Week 1, research and planning work. Stage 1 will be due at the end of week 1. It'll be similar to the winter as well, where it's kind of due on the Monday following that week to give you a kind of additional time to do it. So that's a little bit of me, being nice, giving you more time than saying it's due at the end of the week. You have it due at the start of the next week. Anyway, week 2 or stage 2 is weeks 2 and 3. You will do remote team meetings for feedback during that stage. There's also going to be a drop-in meeting. I currently have these drop-in meetings scheduled kind of following submissions, so that if you submit your work, then there'll be a drop-in meeting happening within a couple days after that. So then we can meet and discuss your most recent submission. That's kind of what that's about. So hopefully that pattern will work. So weeks 2 and 3, stage 2, meet with your remote teams, do your pre-production work, submit stage 2. Weeks 4 and 5, production work. Focus deeply on the production work you're doing. There'll be another drop-in meeting to, for any questions along the way. Stage 4, more remote team meetings again. You'll be finalizing your project. You'll develop your case study. There'll be another drop-in meeting in week 6, and then you'll submit your work, right? So it should be very clear to you, looking at this, how this semester is going to work. I do have here a stipulation with these drop-in meetings. Dates and times will be provided in course announcements and are subject to change. Like I said, my schedule is kind of a bit wonky at this point in the year. So I will provide times for the drop-in meetings. If that time doesn't work for you, what can you do? You can reach out to me and we can set up a dedicated time to meet. Okay? That's the critical path. And, I figure I don't really have to go over this part of things too much here, but stage 1, with each of these stages, there is a written overview to remind you of what's expected, what you should be doing. Like I said, there's any related content as well. So I do encourage you to check out the latest project examples that have been added to this project examples area. There's all kinds of things in here now, right? It's quite comprehensive, and these are all things previous students have worked on. Where it says most recent projects from the winter 2025 semester, these are the most recent projects from MMDD 232 and 255. So take a look at what these students did. They were highlighted as standout projects. These students on their resume can say standout project in the course. In their cover letters, they can say my project was recognized as a standout project, just to show that their effort was rewarded in some way. So these are great projects for you to review, see how the students put their case study together, see the creative process they went through, and hopefully get some inspiration for your own work. Ideation tips, just like last time, explore Behance. There's a ideate with ChatGPT sort of prompt you can use to help you there. If you use that, just make sure that you put it in your submission. And in stage 1, I will go ahead and show you that once again, the proposal template is here. I won't go through each slide, but the requirements being to use this template as a guide include a project summary, the scope and goals, personal relevance, career goals, example projects, what skills will you develop with this project, what resources and technology will you use, a sort of overall overview of your plan sort of sketched out here that you will then sort of apply more in detail to your project plan, and then sources for this proposal, like if you use ChatGPT or any image sources or anything like that. And you also, of course, are expected basically to, improve the design of this proposal so it isn't just this default thing here, but actually curate the creation of it to the subject matter or direction of your project. Once again, you're going to be making a lot of slide decks probably in your career. And if your slide deck looks like this, that is not impressive at all. You will want to design the slide deck in a way that is appropriate for the subject matter that you are presenting or discussing. And the project plan here, it's the 7-week template, and you are asked to see insert pre-production tasks. Stage 1 and stage 4 are a little bit more clear kind of in what you'll be doing. So, you'll be doing research and planning in stage 1, and in stage 4, you're going to be finalizing your project and putting the case study together. So I would say what's most important is to list the particular tasks for stage 2 and stage 3. Okay, you're more than welcome to add additional tasks to stage 1 and 4, but I'll mostly be looking at stages 2 and 3 because that's the real sort of meat of your project that you will be working on. And yes, I know stage 1 only has 1 week, but that's meant to get you started on this project fast so you can really start moving through it. And stage 2, written overview, excuse me, peer feedback guidelines, and then your submission. Stage 3, same idea. Stage 4, here you go. My gosh, sorry about the coffee. Okay, yes, peer feedback guidelines again, case study guideline, and then the requirements for the final submission, which there's a little bit different this time. You won't be required to show the comments that you made unless I change that. I'll let you know in the announcements. But you are still asked to post a link on the Behance sharing board so that others can see your project work. And I'm actually going to ask you to complete this feedback form here at the end and include proof in the submission that you completed it. Again, this is a ways off, so you're going to forget this, but I will be reminding you in the announcements. The reason why I'm requiring that feedback form is that feedback is so important for this class, for me to know what to change, what to adapt, what to shift for future students. So I'm kind of requiring it of you this time around just to ensure I can get as much feedback as possible. And so you can also, see how this approach worked compared to last semester where, the meetings were required, the videos came out more one by one. There were other things you were doing and working on at that point. So, comparing last semester to this semester, what worked, what didn't work, would be super important and helpful for me to know. And then you can access your remote team here and, talk with each other on the discussion board, make sure you're connected. So like I said, you are expected to have a stronger understanding this time around of what you're doing here in this class. So it should require a little bit less hand holding, I think is the phrase. Maybe there's a better way to say that. So that's why the responsibility is more on you this time around. So the responsibility is even on you to meet with me, right? If you would like to. I mean, it was always on you, but I was setting those meetings instead of you setting them. So it's also a great professional thing to be able to do. Work past the nervousness you might have of simply asking someone, hey, can we meet to discuss this? Okay. And also working out, aligning schedules and stuff. That's something I do pretty much every day in this job. So it's good to also get used to that. If I have any final things to say here, I'll just remind you that, again, this is a more condensed semester, so I think it's important for you to also keep that in mind with the project that you propose. So it would make sense if the scope is a little bit lessened from last semester, given that even though you'll have a lot more time week to week to work on stuff, just having less sort of temporal time overall, I think probably does lead to, again, a more, rapid feeling of that project development. So, say last semester you proposed a motion graphics campaign with 3 15-second animations. Maybe this time around you do either 2 15-second animations or 1 30-second animation or something like that, just because, as I often say to students, you should focus more on quality over quantity. So it's very important for you to have a nice, strong, focused project at the end with a great case study so that you can put it in your portfolio. Someone can open it and say, bam, that looks great. Why don't I interview this person? I would love to hear more from them about how they made this, right? That's something that has happened with students in this course, in their trajectory in this program, in their career. So you can also find the you knew with this video, and you can get to that point as well if you put the effort in with this project, okay? And please, anything at all, reach out to me via Blackboard messages, okay? The best way to contact me, and because we're not having so much touch points necessarily throughout the semester, it's just great for us to connect there. But like I said, I'll let you know about drop-ins for you to come by and things like that. So everything should be covered in this video. I know that might have seemed quite overwhelming, but this video is here for you to refer back to. Hopefully you took some notes like I recommended you do. And like I said, if anything is unclear or confusing, just let me know. Final thing I'll say, this is unrelated to the course, but hopefully you can enjoy some of this time as the weather is warming up, as things are going on in the city and in your life. I'm sure many of you will still be working, of course, during this time and having other responsibilities, but hopefully you can still enjoy it. And as an appreciator of film, if you haven't seen the movie Sinners yet, I recommend you check it out while it's in theaters. That's fully unrelated, but as people developing creative abilities, watching the creative work of others or experiencing the creative work of others is extremely essential for your own development. And I think Sinners really resonated with me, makes me want to expand my own creative approaches, makes me want to work on impactful things. And so maybe you'll get that out of it as well. Anyway, enjoy your time, but be working on this project and reach out to me. Any questions, confusion, anything, okay? Good luck.